Hey guys, when you think of religion in Iraq, you're obviously going to think of Islam. Of course, you'd be right. Approximately 95 to 98% of the population are Muslims. No real surprises there. I don't just want to show you the obvious though. So in this video, we'll take a look at some of the religious minorities in Northern Iraq and Kurdistan, particularly Christianity and Yazidism. We'll also look at some of the recent and tragic history suffered by these groups during the time when ISIS controlled parts of Northern Iraq. It'll be a beautiful, but sometimes hard story, and of course a story that we can barely even touch the surface of in one video. Come with me on a journey. I'm up bright and early again, on the road already and heading to the northwest of the country. The theme for today is going to be mainly the different religions of Iraq apart from Islam. The highlight is going to be a visit to Lalish, which is the sacred town of the Yazidi people. The whole town is sacred. Supposedly I have to walk barefoot in the town. It's all considered a holy place. At this time of recording, I know very little about the Yazidi people, but I hope to learn a lot more today and pass it on to you and show you the sights there. Christianity was brought to Iraq back in the 1st century when it was adopted by the Assyrian people, predating Islam by a few centuries. It lived side by side with the Mesopotamian religion until that began to die out in the 4th century. We'll head now through Christian towns to the Mar Mattai Monastery on the side of Mount Alfaf, established in the 4th century and located within a short distance of Mosul city. So this whole area that we're entering into now, the villages around here, all Christian villages. It's strange to think that, people living here in these Christian villages so close to the front line with ISIS. It must have been a terrifying time to be here. So close, if they had broken through, who knows what they would have done here. It's the Mar Mattai, just 3 kilometers from the front line with ISIS. Crazy to imagine. So I'm here at the monastery now. Some security on the way in, checkpoint on the way in. It's hardly surprising really. They're going to be very cautious around here given the recent history. We're just 20 kilometers from Mosul city here, 3 kilometers from what used to be the ISIS front line, and here we are at a Christian monastery. Stunning, stunning view here. So behind me you see the story of Mar Mattai. Mar Mattai basically means Saint Matthew in Arabic. Mar, Saint, Mattai, Matthew. So Mar Mattai, he came here fleeing persecution from the Romans in Turkey. And he found this mountain, he found a cave up in this mountain. And he basically set up in the cave. Now the king at the time had a very sick daughter and heard of Mar Mattai. And he tried all sorts of things, medical people, to try and help his daughter, and nothing helped. So he came to Mar Mattai and said, "Is there anything you can do?" So Mar Mattai baptized her, prayed for her, and she became better. So the king rewarded Mar Mattai, building his first church up here. Over the years, the site has been extended many times into this huge monastery that you see today. But it started from those simple roots. Here in the implementation of Christianity in Iraq, you see some crossovers to Islam. For example, to go into the church, you're expected to take your shoes off, just as if you were going into a mosque, something that we never do in the West. So Mar Mattai's original church doesn't exist anymore, the one that was gifted to him by the king. However, where I stand now, this is the original cave, part of the monastery, now converted into, well, basically the tombs. This is Mar Mattai's tomb right here. So directly under that cloud there, right in the distance, 20 or so kilometers, that's Mosul. You can just about tell there's a major city out there. It's the 2nd biggest city in Iraq, but unfortunately a little bit too hazy to see it clearly today. You see the mountain over here? This was basically the ISIS front line. This area here and out towards Mosul city over there, that was basically ISIS controlled. Where you see the kind of bending road up towards the other mountain there, that was the trenches. That was the actual front line between ISIS and the Peshmerga. It's a beautiful building and an interesting place up here with some stunning views, and also the context as well of being so close to the ISIS front line is super interesting. Being able to see that, it's really quite recent history. Mar Mattai is one of the oldest Christian monasteries in existence, and it's remained a sanctuary over the centuries for Christians fleeing persecution, most recently during the battle for Mosul. But although ISIS may not have made it to Mar Mattai, there are plenty of places where they did. Many people from religious minority groups in the north of Iraq were forced to flee towards Iraqi Kurdistan as ISIS gained ground there. In 2014, the Christian minority's biggest town of Alqosh near Mosul city was taken after the withdrawal of Kurdish forces there. It remained under ISIS control for around 2 years. So it's time now to leave this lovely place. We're going to head off for lunch and then go to Lalish, the holy town of the Yazidi people. The Yazidi religion has influences from Christianity, Islam and other religions, and is based on one god. However, in Yazidism, the supreme being is considered a passive force who created the world and then ended his involvement with it, leaving it in control of 7 divine beings. The greatest of these is the peacock angel known as Malak Taus. Non-Yazidis have associated Malak Taus with Shaitan, which is Arabic for devil, leading to Yazidis being incorrectly mislabeled as devil worshippers. Yazidis themselves find that offensive and never actually mention that name. Fire, water, air and earth are considered sacred elements that are never to be polluted, and during prayer Yazidis face towards the sun. Why Lalish? Why this spot? Well, in the Yazidi religion, it's believed that God created Adam from a certain rock, and that rock is here, in Lalish. So this is why we have Lalish as the main town here. For Yazidi, this is like their Mecca in Islam. They must pay a visit to Lalish. The baptism must happen here. Children must be baptized in Lalish or they're not Yazidi. This family is actually here for a baptism. Of course, we're not allowed to go inside where that actually happens. So this very spot here is where the Yazidi have to be baptized. This is the most holy water and the most holy well. Any Yazidi must come to Lalish for their baptism here, which we've just seen a little of. So here by the baptism well you see the rock. This is the rock that in Yazidi religion they say God created Adam from. So in the Yazidi religion, they have a pope, basically like Christianity. So the pope lives in Shekhan, and then they have one priest, only one priest in the whole of Yazidi religion, and he lives here. So what you see behind me, this is basically the cemetery for all of the past priests of the Yazidi religion. So all over Lalish you see these little alcoves with this blackened surround. The reason for this, basically every day they put in place 365 candles in each of these alcoves and they light them up just before the sunset. So that explains the blackening there. 365 for 365 days of the year, and fire is seen in Yazidi religion as one of the most holy elements. Now, in Yazidism, what they believe is that Noah's Ark actually hit a rock, hit a mountain, and had damage in it, basically. It was going to sink with Noah, with the animals, and the black snake came along. The black snake filled the hole, saved everyone, saved the animals, saved Noah. So the black snake is very holy in Yazidi religion. So going around the main temple there was actually very, very interesting. It's It's such a different space than mosques or churches or anything like that. It's under renovation at the moment, so that was a bit of a shame, of course, so you can't see it so well from the outside. But inside, it's a very simple space at first, very plain, non-decorated. But then you step into these more cavernous areas. Oh, yeah, lovely, lovely. Thank you, thank you.
Hello. That's coffee.
I certainly wouldn't mind a coffee right now. Whoa, I've just tried this coffee that the man offered me. It's slightly sour, it's thick, it's like just condensed. They've just taken coffee and somehow condensed it tenfold. Whoa, I mean, that is literally my reaction. The sourness, the bitterness, the thickness, and the caffeine just immediately going to your head and making me talk like this. This is crazy. Whoa. So this man behind me here, this is the one and only priest of Yazidi religion. We're quite lucky to spot him here. The plight of the Yazidi people during the time of ISIS is another tragic and lesser known story in those dark times. ISIS were explicit about their intention to wipe out the Yazidi community, who they reviled as infidels. When ISIS swept through northern Iraq and into the homeland of the Yazidis in 2014, they separated the men and older boys and massacred up to 10,000 of them in what the United Nations have called a genocide. Women and girls as young as 9 were captured and sold to ISIS fighters. They were repeatedly raped and traded at will. Many Yazidis still remain displaced following the conflict. So now we're going back to Christianity. We're going to the town of Alqosh to St. Hermizd Monastery. This is supposed to be even more beautiful than the monastery we saw earlier, basically carved into the rock of a mountain. So this is actually a Yazidi village that we're passing through. You'll notice basically a lot of alcohol signs here because in Yazidi religion alcohol is allowed. It's not like Islam, so it's kind of like being back in Ankara. So this is St. Hermizd Monastery. It's really quite beautiful. This dates back to the 7th century. It's no longer an active monastery. I think it stopped being used as an active monastery in about the 1980s. Now they basically use one down the bottom. But there's this fantastic view here.
Monks, they used to live here, or they used to hide here when enemy attacked them.
It gets really, really thin here. Oy. So the flat land behind us is Nineveh Plain. This is, I understand, mentioned in the Old Testament of the Bible. It's a very holy land. And this land, this part of Iraqi Kurdistan is basically not really so much Islamic. It's predominantly Christian and Yazidi. So definitely interesting to stop off at both the Christian and Yazidi sites in the area. Another beautiful place, another beautiful monastery. I never had that high expectations really for what I'd see here, but I should know otherwise. Every day here in Iraqi Kurdistan blows my mind. The district of Alqosh in the Nineveh Plains is home to a multitude of ethnic and religious groups, including Christians, Muslims and Yazidis. It's really a historical area of coexistence, with 42 villages and a variety of religious sites. Now down from the monastery in the town of Alqosh. This town actually used to be a Jewish town. The Jewish community has now left. It's basically a Christian town nowadays. So behind me is the old synagogue from the Jewish times. It's been renovated since. You notice the churches, crosses everywhere, the cemetery over there, all covered in crosses. This is definitely a Christian town. Really so much contrast. Yet again, this is not really something you think of when you think of Iraq, Iraqi Kurdistan. You think Muslim, of course, you think Islamic, but you don't think about these other religions that we see here, about these Christian neighborhoods, these Christian towns, about the Yazidi people. It's fascinating to see a different side of religion here in Iraqi Kurdistan. The Battle of Mosul went on for around 9 months, until late July 2017 when the final pockets of ISIS resistance in Mosul's old city were defeated. It was considered the toughest urban battle since World War II. Of the 560,000 Yazidis in Iraq, 355,000 were displaced by ISIS attacks. Nearly 3,000 women and children remain missing. Tens of thousands of civilians remain in refugee camps across northern Iraq, too fearful to return to their ancestral lands. There's a considerable risk that cultural heritage and religious traditions may disappear forever. Only time will tell how the religious minorities in the area will rebuild. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and as I said from the start, I can barely even scratch the surface of the subjects I mention here. If you liked the video, please do let me know with the thumbs up button, and leave a comment below. And of course, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. I'll be making another fun video for you guys soon. Bye for now, and I hope to see you next time.